Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talk Politics. Just a quick disclaimer and a little bit of an apology. We gather that we haven't posted in a while. It's because we had exams, so we had to put Talk Politics off a little bit. But we should be back now from here on in, at least for the next 2 weeks until we have summer break. But another bit of news: Anna is away today, so we get our producer Aidan as second host. So yeah, should we just get straight into it?
Yeah,
On the 23rd of June, by the way, this is the 23rd of June episode. And, well, I mean, for those of you who were alive the last day.
Big news, of course. Keir Starmer has resigned as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, probably the biggest news we've ever gotten in a podcast.
It's certainly the biggest news we've dealt with on here.
Yeah,
so massive news. Well, never used to really happen. It's happening more often now.
Yeah, it's happening a bunch, isn't it? So
6 Prime Ministers in 10 years now.
Wow,
it's definitely not good for the country, but
no, not good for stability, certainly.
But it does make for some good news to talk about.
Exactly, which is probably what our episode is going to be today. So yeah, what are your thoughts on it? Just not like about the resignation itself, but the way that it's gone and how it's panned out. What are your...
So personally, I'm still not convinced that it was the right decision for Starmer to resign. I don't see that. It looks like Burnham will be the Prime Minister in waiting. He'll be next Prime Minister. And I'm not sure he'll bring much different to the Labour Party.
Yeah.
I see this as being a more sort of forced change to try and just recoup some popularity rather than any certain policy ideals.
Well, he doesn't have a mandate, doesn't he? Like, he doesn't have his own personal...
Oh yeah, so there's a lot of complaint, especially from Reform, that they're saying he's been elected to what would appear to be Prime Minister on 25,000 votes from a constituency in Manchester, Makerfield. He just won that seat, sworn in the same day that Starmer resigned. And so there's a lot of complaints that he hasn't got that mandate. He hasn't got popularity with the general public. So
it's interesting because they're all calling for general elections, aren't they? I mean, I think it was certainly Nigel.
Yes,
Nigel definitely called for one.
Put out a video calling for a general election.
Yeah,
that happens every time a Prime Minister changes around. It happened when you saw the end of Boris Johnson to all that. They were calling for general elections. It never usually happens, and I can't see Burnham calling an election if he becomes Prime Minister.
I think Starmer's definitely had very much a PR problem as Prime Minister. He obviously came in 2024, 14 years of Conservative government. We're still reeling from the effects of COVID. And there has been stabilisation. If you look at the last few quarters, the economy has stayed as it is, inflation has stayed as it is. Unemployment for the general population has decreased, it increased for younger people. And I don't think it was the right time to do it, because all of the coverage around it, or at least the coverage that wasn't from the main political news agencies, was definitely on the fact that if he was to challenge Burnham to a leadership challenge, the outcome wasn't as clear as people would realistically think it would be. So
I think a lot of why Starmer has resigned is that he did want to go on his own terms.
Exactly.
He doesn't want to be forced out by cabinet.
He set the timetable as well.
Yes, he's saying, I'll announce my resignation now, but he won't go until, was it July the 9th, I think he said.
The leadership stuff opens in the 9th of July, but he wants to be gone after that.
So he doesn't want to have the embarrassment of losing a leadership election whilst being the incumbent Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lot of the reason why he has resigned. But I also don't think... we've got to recognise that Starmer did have some successes as well.
He did.
A lot of the media would have you feel that he did nothing right, disastrous reign, but I don't...
He had quite a few parts of his personal manifesto, and the Labour manifesto 2024 that were successfully implemented, which is a success certainly in terms of modern politics, where it's increasingly harder to be able to use conventions and stuff like that to be able to implement your own manifesto policies. And I feel like, like I said, the economy has been, it's the highest growing economy of G7. And at the time, Japan didn't release their numbers, but most people who do economics, business, whatever, know that Japan's economy isn't exactly doing the best right now.
No.
So, we can wholeheartly expect that Britain is the fastest growing economy in the G7, which is it's a big achievement. It is a big achievement. And NHS waiting times were down, or have been down for the large part of 15 years, I think. Granted, that is because they're laying off a lot of people on the waiting list.
Yeah.
But, all in all, the waiting.
But do you hear about these successes that much? Did you see them in the papers? No, exactly.
No. So a lot of people...
They focus, they like to talk about Mandelson, they like to talk about the scandals, they like to talk about his failures. And I think the pressure did just get to him. He did. I agree with you. He did have a massive PR problem as prime
Yeah,
minister.
his PR problem was quite
I,
frankly one of the worst we've seen
yes,
in a
I
long, long
think
time.
he could be considered a much better prime minister if he'd have had a better spin
It,
doctor.
in another life, without any different moves from him, he'd be seen as the best prime minister for the situation that we're in
Yes,
currently.
in the recent times, yeah.
Certainly as a stabilizer, of course, because the economy stays the same, especially under the Iran war, which we'll probably get to eventually. Although by the time we release this, there might be completely different stuff
There's
going
a
on over there.
changing situation over there in Iran. You've
Anyway,
got
yeah.
yeah.
But back to
England.
Starmer. I just, yeah, you're right. He left on his own terms. Granted, a lot of sources claim that if he was to challenge or to accept the challenge and fight his own court, he would have won. He obviously had the undying support of people like David Lammy and things like that.
I guess we'll never know now, though.
Yeah, we'll never know, and we'll get Andy Burnham in, who
Well, it's not
is
guaranteed.
splitting a lot of
It's
the
not
vote.
guaranteed we will get Andy Burnham. He's looking like the front runner, but there's obviously Angela Rayner.
She stayed very quiet though.
Yes, she hasn't said anything
Which
about
probably means
whether
she is
she's actually
going to
going to
run.
run. Whereas if you look at Wes Streeting, who was one of the other big beasts,
Given a
Starmer's
job, and
cabinet,
now he's all quiet.
yeah,
Hush, hush.
he's backed Burnham. He said, "Yep, sure, that'll be it," and
Yeah.
he's not going to challenge for leadership himself.
I think that's what Rayner's doing. I think she's staying quiet because if she gets a higher position in the cabinet, then she will stop. Like she won't challenge.
Yes,
I think if she doesn't get a job before the 9th, she'll announce herself.
Oh yeah, she is waiting, I'd say.
Yeah.
We've also got to remember Burnham and Rayner not really same sides of the Labour Party. There,
Nope.
you've got Rayner, who's more of the sort of the left wing, more you'd say closer to Corbyn than to Starmer. Whereas Burnham, Streeting, Starmer, they're all in that same kind of very centrist group.
Yeah, it's obviously personally, I think there's an incredibly high chance that Burnham gets in. I think it's kind of
if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on it.
Yeah. So yeah, to skirt away from Starmer's problem, he's knowing the media. He's going to be yesterday's news in about 10 days.
Oh yeah, there'll be
what are your opinions on Burnham, or your opinions on his way into government and his way into being prime minister for the first time?
Well, I do worry that it'll be too quick, going from Manchester Mayor to MP to leader in the space of about a month. I think. I'm not sure how well he'll cope with just the increased level of pressure from
all the cabinet really.
Yes, but it's also like I do think he will be an upgrade on Starmer personally. I don't think they'll be too different, but I don't think you can really argue that Burnham has more charisma than Starmer. I think that's just a fact.
Deals well with conflict.
Yes, and you've got he is loved up in Manchester.
Yeah, so he's done a good job as a mayor.
That red wall that was threatening to disappear up in the north, you might say, with Burnham, could that come back?
Yeah.
I think that's what the Labour Party is certainly hoping for.
Yeah, they're hoping for because right now, he is the most popular member of the Labour Party, P or not.
Yeah, so they're just hoping to translate that popularity from the specific region up north down
barring
to the whole
them
country.
Literally bringing Tony Blair back, which constitutionally I'm pretty sure is impossible. But
I'm not sure Tony Blair would be up for it.
He's making his money now. He's all right. But yeah, I think Burnham, a lot of his popularity, to be honest, in terms of like leadership polls, the most recent leadership poll, I think this was by London Economic, I saw on the internet. They said that Andy Burnham won every single part of a leadership poll. Like how good he is as a leader, how much would they vote for him, how much they like him. He was first in every single one except for personality, which went to Nigel Farage. He
is another very charismatic man, Nigel Farage. I think that's a lot of what he gets his popularity from.
He has captured the hearts of a lot of the Brits, and I think that's what Labour's hoping for. They're hoping for a similar thing because you see in the media they handled Starmer and they handled Farage very, very differently. Farage with his 5 million donation from that crypto billionaire. Yeah. And like if you look at the numbers over the past year, Reform have received 9 million donations, which is like I think it's almost double everybody else combined, and that 9 million was from 2 people. Purely from 2 people. So it's clear who is supporting Reform, but you can tell Farage has captured the hearts of a lot of people, particularly the working class.
He's able to brush over a lot of his controversies with his charisma.
Exactly, which I think is what Labour's hoping for.
Yes,
I think
because
they're
Starmer
hoping
certainly struggled with that. He let the Mandelson scandal. He let that drag on for far too long.
That was the one and only thing they were talking about in Westminster for at least 2 weeks.
And the whole thing of like the Chagos Islands, I'd say not much really substance-wise there, and it's dragged on. It's had a lot of influence in British politics where it really probably shouldn't have.
Because certainly in terms of PMQs as well, every Wednesday, which I definitely recommend to people to watch. It was very eye-opening watching Starmer debate, because he would get asked a question, or he would get berated basically by, Badenoch or Farage occasionally when he was in Parliament. He would come back to Labour's successes. He wouldn't address the question. He struggled to be able to be an active debater, which I think Burnham's better at, and I think that's what Labour is looking for. They're looking for someone who, of course, he doesn't have his own mandate, so he's going to be very similar in terms of his economic policies, because they're both very, very similar sides of the political spectrum. I think they're expecting Burnham to be the same, but it's a fresh face. The media, a lot of people, like 70%, I think, in a recent poll, really don't like Starmer, because they think he's weak. They don't think he's a nice leader. He doesn't stand up to Trump.
He's over -60 in the popularity polls. He's not doing well, whereas Burnham, if you look, he's at about -5, which for a Prime Minister is very good.
Yeah, Starmer failed, apart from his stance on Iran and then Cyprus and stuff like that. He struggled to have a heavy hand or a decisive hand in foreign policy. Domestic policy, was quiet in the background, but the media didn't cover it, which, yes, is unfortunate that a good deed by a person doesn't get covered by the media. But the fact of the matter is that a very charismatic Prime Minister, Tony Blair, for example, would get that scrutiny from the social media, and you'd twist it and you'd throw it right back at them with clever rebuttals and like actual structured debates and PMQs. Starmer just stood up and just said, NHS waiting times are down. Yeah. I housing is up, and it's like, but the question is about immigration, for example.
So Starmer wanted to get those domestic policy successes out there into the open. That's what he'd spent a lot of his time at PMQs doing, but he never particularly did it very effectively. No. He never got it out to the people.
Problem. Yeah. That was his problem. And I think that's what because politically, policy-wise, Burnham's not going to be particularly different. But personality, he's a fresh face. I think a lot of the reason why people, you look at Labour's successes of the last 2 years, decent successes, stabilised the country. Immigration's down by 73%, something like that. Net immigration is much, much better than it was than Conservatives. That's for sure. That's a fact. But nobody knows that. The Reform voters certainly don't know that, because they hate Labour because of their immigration policies, but because of misinformation or disinformation or whatever, how you want to put it, spell it on the internet. They didn't realise that Labour has done this job, and that's why they hate Labour, is because of their immigration policies. And I think, it's they have done the job, but it's just because Starmer's been I don't want to say weak, because I don't think he's weak, but I think he's ineffective as a leader. I think he's just
lack of personality, I fear.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's a bit like liberal Democrats. Doesn't really know which way to go.
Doesn't really get out what he's actually standing for.
Exactly. Which is no dig to Liberal Democrats. We're obviously a very non-partisan podcast.
Yeah, but
we'll take digs to the Greens, for example, as well. Probably a future episode. And so that's probably what they're doing. They want a fresh face, a fresh person who doesn't have. Because I think definitely by the end of it, probably by February, when Mandelson happened, I think it was point of no return for Starmer in terms of his public support, because the public are ruthless, especially in Britain.
Yeah.
Especially now, because it's not a two-party system anymore. So people are much more likely to switch their partisan. And so I think, it was a point of no return with Mandelson, because he did poorly handle that. He handled that poorly, sorry. And Parliament dragged on about it for a couple of weeks, but the point of the matter is that was a very bad failure. As Prime Minister, he should know who he's hiring and who he's sending out, especially as the American ambassador. So
Can you see anybody other than Burnham taking over, though?
I mean, we mentioned earlier Rayner, which is the only other real name, apart from Streeting, who's obviously said that he's not going to stand. And so I think watch this space for the next 4 days with Rayner. I think Rayner's not going to win if she does stand.
Yeah.
Because I think, obviously, like we said, she's very left-wing in terms of Labour. She's a Corbynite, and people really did not like Corbyn back in the day. So I don't think she'll get that much.
He was popular in 2017, but by 2019 he had completely collapsed his support.
Exactly.
So that wing of the Labour Party is it's not dead, but it's not exactly the mainstream one anymore.
Okay. Anyway. Do we move on to our next segment? Now, a little bit of a roundup. Of course, I run the Instagram and everything like that. And if you follow the Instagram, 50% of it is changes in Iran. Literally, 50% of it is me posting about
Iran, Israel, Lebanon, what's happening there.
Lebanon's being bombed again, Iran's being bombed again. The Strait of Hormuz is open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed. Like, Jesus Christ.
And meanwhile, Donald Trump's polling people on his preferred rage bait name for the Democrats.
Yeah. Currently, as it stands on 23rd of June at 1:40. Currently, as it stands, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. They had, I can't remember the name. It's a very cool name, to be fair. Very cool name. They signed it in Geneva. It was meant to be this big thing between Iran and America. Trump went home. He was seen as a hero. Not quite, Neville Chamberlain, I hold in my hand piece. Yeah. But he came home and he had, Iran have agreed to nuclear weapons and, they're going to completely open the Strait of Hormuz.
And I won't pay them $300 billion.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do that. Lo and behold, 36 hours later, I'm pretty sure, the Strait of Hormuz is closed because Iran thought that America wasn't adhering to the documents, so they closed the Strait of Hormuz. That's the current situation. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. I'm pretty sure there's also bombing going on, but I wouldn't hold me to that. I would fact check that yourself.
Bombing's mostly around the Lebanon area. So
yes, that's the other bit of news.
So Iran's it's cooled down over in Iran. It's heating up in Lebanon.
Certainly compared to, it's heating. It's really heating up in Lebanon. So, okay, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to give a little bit of a rundown of what happened. It got to a point where Israel bombed Lebanon, obviously, to try and get rid of the terrorist group that was hiding there.
Yeah, they just want to remove Hezbollah from.
Yeah, they wanted to remove Hezbollah, similar to Hamas in Palestine. They want that similar sort of concept of we are going to destroy in order to preserve our own country. And as that progressed, they had peace treaties and broken peace treaties and stuff like that, similar to Iran and the US.
There's been at least 2 ceasefires.
There's been at least, ceasefires actually, not treaties.
Yeah, so they're just the ceasefires, but they've been broken fairly quickly.
Very quickly. And quite surprisingly, and I think we should talk about this for a little bit, or a lot of bit, depending on how much we've got to say, is that America have kind of had a little bit of a divorce with Israel over this.
Yes,
Trump's really not happy with them.
There's definitely been reports from inside Trump's circle of him saying that at the moment he's been more annoyed. Not
even that.
He's more annoyed with Israel at the moment than he is with Iran.
Yeah. Which is quite surprising. I really did not see that coming. I thought Trump has his mandate and he has his support from Israel to do what he wants in Iran. Whether you think that's fixing the midterms, whether you think that's trying to invoke one of the amendments in the Constitution that means he gets to act head of state because it's a wartime, whatever you want to put it, because he actually thinks that there's nuclear weapons, whether it isn't or not.
So if he wants oil.
Whether or not, a lot of his support and his mandate to be able to do that came from Israel. And Israel obviously helped with that. What Trump didn't bank on doing, and what wasn't agreed from the start, certainly from what we can tell or infer from his words, is that he didn't bank on Israel attacking Hezbollah. Now that they've done that, he's really gone crazy. Trump was saying in interviews, and he was reported to be saying in terms of sources on social media and stuff, that, he was claiming that Israel wouldn't be Israel if it wasn't for him. All of this stuff wouldn't happen if it wasn't for him. He's really pissed. Israel's going to pay. He's never going to do stuff with Israel again. And people are actually unironically reporting, certainly in America, whether they've had a permanent divorce, whether Israel and America, their relationship will never quite be the same again. Obviously, I think that's a little bit of, because obviously American news they don't have to be a certain kind of, it's not like the laws in Britain, they can't be partisan, for example. So I think in America, a lot of that is sort of hearsay to try and up their viewership. But I think there is a debate to be had about the fact that, not the fact that it's over, but the fact that it's kind of changed.
Yeah. How much of that do you think is a cause of his supporters? So a lot of them are turning against Israel now. People who voted for him for his domestic changes, no more wars was his famous quote, and then he's obviously got involved in more wars. And so a lot of people are turning against it. They don't want their money going into Israel.
Yeah, I think obviously, the biggest thing about his campaign was no more wars. We're going to completely take away from wars. America's not going to get involved in foreign affairs, which is something that America love to do every now and again.
Yep.
He's still in Iran. He's still involved in a foreign war. So I don't think it's quite about that. I think it is more so because he's not in control anymore. I think Israel have taken Hezbollah and Lebanon as their own thing, and they're not. I don't think they're corresponding with the US about it. And I think it's coming out in frustration.
There's definitely been some sort of communication breakdown over there. We'll see what happens.
Okay, next segment. And I'm going to get your opinion on this, political violence and stuff. That is going to be our third segment today, talking about political violence. A lot of you will be following in terms of the Belfast riots.
So it's a few weeks ago now, the main part of those, but we haven't posted since then, so obviously thought I'd go back up and cover it.
Yeah.
So riots around the UK, particularly Belfast, the most heated ones.
And recent killings. Henry Novak is the big name. He kind of set it all off in terms of this new influx of racial tension. And there's a guy in Edinburgh that I'll talk about as well in a second. That was obviously, it's a very unfortunate situation for his family. And those of you will know that lots of, we're not going to cover what happened with that. We're not going to give our opinion on policing or anything because I don't think it's our place. You can find that almost everywhere that
You've
you
got to
go.
remember, political violence has no place.
It has no place. That's
anywhere.
The only thing. Yeah, it's like it has no place, whether it's racial violence or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's not even political, it's about race. No place for it, ever. What we are going to talk about is the riots, because that's purely political. Yeah, obviously Farage came out and said people need to be red hot angry or something like that.
I think
they need to have a rage inside of them. And
yes.
Granted, not granted actually, but in rebuttal to that, Henry Novak's family came out and said, this is not a time to be violent. They don't want any violence.
So it's definitely been an overreaction compared to what really should have happened.
Yeah, you always follow the family's wishes.
Yes, and inciting riots is never a good thing.
Yeah.
Just can't approve of that under any circumstances, really.
And yeah, he did get some scrutiny from the media for that. But
yes.
We moved on quite quickly from that. I think that's quite an important point. Is like he went completely against their wishes. And he said he incited violence. As a politician, he incited political violence. He asked for people to be violent. The last time...
I don't think it's pretty fair to say he asked them to be violent. He just wants...
He did. He said you should get up and be angry about it.
He wants anger. He doesn't want violence.
Okay, and what do you think his supporters are going to manifest that in?
Obviously...
Historically, Reform voters are the most aggressive of all the other parties, statistically.
But I just think it's not particularly fair to say he's inciting violence. He wants the riots, he wants that media coverage to say, oh, look, here's people going against multiculturalism.
But he didn't... I'm going to disagree with you on that one, actually, because he didn't get up and say, we need to stand up about this, we need to speak up, which would be peaceful protest. Walk through the streets, say X and Y about your opinions on this. He said, we need to get angry, we need to be red hot. What part of that does not scream... We need to get on the streets and we need to be angry. I think that's
definitely what he was trying to get across, but in the way he said it, so it can be still inferred as saying he just wants protest instead of riots.
Yeah, so that happened. Yeah, and obviously political violence never happened, and then we had
that particular one a few weeks ago. It's all kind of gone over.
The Belfast one, and certainly the Edinburgh one has happened over the last 3 days. And then we had a similar thing in Belfast where there was a lot of white far-right supporters protesting and aggressively protesting in Belfast to the point where they had to get like water cannons out to sort of deal with these people. Fire bombs. They were burning cars and things. Not as bad as the Knicks celebrations, but which is another thing. We won't talk about that this week. And then in the recent couple of days, something in Edinburgh, a man has been convicted, I think, and arrested for racial murder. There is a video that I've seen online of him smashing a window and entering in, to racially target someone for murder. And I think it's come out that he's murdered multiple people as well.
Yeah.
So, again, very unfortunate news. And I don't know why we have to say it, that political violence has no place. And it shouldn't. Nobody should ever incite anger within politics. Because that is not politics. That is not political.
It shouldn't need to be said, but unfortunately, increasingly, it does need to be said these days.
Politics should never be mixed with over emotion. If you have to have your logic should be based on your emotion, but your emotion should not be the only thing that you base your opinions on.
Yeah,
how I think it should go.
I fully agree with
that.
Yeah.
Your emotion should inform the way that you think. It should not be the reason and the manifestation of how you act. So. Yeah, that's a little segment on that.
And I do want to end on something a bit more positive. You'd say, World Cup.
Have we missed anything?
Well, it's big news, not really political, but the World Cup has started since our last episode.
Oh yeah. Do you want to take that and give a little bit of a rundown?
Well, yeah, just World Cup is over in North America, so USA, Canada, Mexico, joint hosting it. There have been some controversies. You had some players from particularly some African and Middle Eastern nations held at...
Yeah, the Somalian referee, isn't it?
Yes, the Somalian referee who had his visa rejected.
And he's under investigation for inciting terrorism now.
He agreed with something on Twitter that Donald Trump and the American administration seems to be aligning with terrorist groups.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So now he's...
But he's since been named as the referee for the UEFA Super Cup final.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so he will be refereeing that
Aston Villa,
as
PSG.
yes, as he won't be able to make the World Cup.
But
But
yeah,
I think overall, I'd say it has been a positive experience.
the tournament. Yeah,
Yes,
the politics in America right now hasn't seeped its way in yet. I don't think Trump has been
I think
to any matches.
with the biggest controversy within the games has been the hydration breaks. It's not
Yeah,
been
which isn't.
yeah. There's not been any like riots or protests.
Yeah, we'll make a
Particularly.
different podcast for that. But yeah, so the World Cup's been going well. England play tonight, so
Yep.
come on England, and Scotland play tomorrow.
England v Ghana. It's probably
Come on,
just about
Scotland.
coming on when this is posted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been Angus,
I'm Aidan.
and that was episode 5, I think, of Talk Politics.
Yes.
Tune in next Tuesday. They're probably going to be Tuesday from now on because I have a commitment on Monday lunchtimes. And hopefully Anna will be back.
And I can get back to hiding behind the camera.
And Aidan can get back to fact checking us.
Yep.
So we will see you next week. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Thank you.